Hello, my name is Leroy Blevins. Welcome to Mysteries and Histories. In this episode here, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the shot that started it all in the JFK assassination. Now, people's probably wondering what I mean by the shot that started the whole thing into the JFK assassination is the fatal headshot to JFK, which is, as you see in frame 313. Okay, for years, because of this one frame, there's been a lot of speculations and stuff like that made. And then this is where all the rumors and all the false claims start, because of this one shot. Now, as I watch videos and documentaries, I should say, and, films and everything else like that, they're always talking about mostly the fatal headshot. Now, years ago, when they was talking about the JFK assassination, they always talk about the three shots: the magic bullet shot, the curb shot, and the fatal headshot to JFK. But in a recent past, say 30 years, it's more or less the fatal headshot. Okay, the fatal headshot. Not just the curb shot no more, not just the magic bullet shot no more. It's the fatal headshot. And because of that fatal headshot, where JFK's head opened up, that's when all the false claims and more stories being made. Now, as I point out in my research for years, everybody's concentrating this on this one shot. And this is where the starting point of all these false claims coming from. And the reason why they start these claims, because they keep on saying, because a researcher comes out and he goes, well, when we watch the film, JFK goes back and then he goes to the left. Okay, so a shot had to came from the picket fence area. And then next thing we know, out of the clear blue, we got all these people, these so-called eyewitnesses as well, saying, hey, we seen the gunman behind the picket fence. However, in the first testimonies, in some of the first testimonies, they didn't see, they heard the shots, but they didn't see where the shots came from. But then all of a sudden they seen where the shots came from, like Jean Hill. Okay, Jean Hill. I know I seen the shots coming from behind the picket fence. But in the first, she says, she didn't know where it came from. She heard the shots, but she changed her story around. And then we have Bellevue Oliver coming out saying, hey, I'm the babushka lady. Okay. A lot of claims, like I said, mostly started when it comes to JFK assassination, was mostly in the 70s and then into the 80s, more into the 90s and the 2000s when it hit, especially in the 2000. That's when a lot more claims started coming out and everything else like that. And in the also in the 90s as well, I should say, in the 90s and 2000s, a lot more false claims are added to it and everything else like that. But they place their gunmen in different locations. And this is one thing that really bothers me when I go over these stories and when I view this, okay, which I'll pull up a map that I made, okay, as you see here. Okay, they're looking for a gunman, or their evidence, I should say. By their stories, they're looking for a gunman in the Daltex building. Okay, now there's people said all there's evidence. There's no evidence to show there was actually a gunman inside the Daltex building. And I'm going to make another video after this and explain more in detail. Okay, but then they have the Badge Man, which eventually came out years later after the assassination. I think it came out in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s, somewhere around there. And then we have James Files, which came out in, I think, late 1990s or early 2000s. His story comes out. Okay. And then we got people placing the gunman inside the storm drains, this one here and then this one here, gunman behind the picket fence here and here, plus a gunman in between shelter number 3 and the picket fence, gunman down around where James Tagg was standing, gunman on the south side, the driver Greer being this took the fatal headshot, Governor Conn taking a fatal headshot, Jackie Kennedy taking a fatal headshot to JFK, or a Secret Service agent behind JFK's limo took the fatal headshot. They have all these claims out, but as you see on this map, zero evidence to back it up because of one shot. As I pointed out, They look at this and they say, well, here's the fatal headshot. JFK frame 313 of the Zapruder film. Now, they want to tell us that the Zapruder film is altered, okay, by different claims. It's easy to make a claim that a film is altered because people's going to believe that, hey, this film's been altered because this person says so or that person says so, and they're either got a doctor behind their name, like Dr. Such and Such, or one thing or another, or this fellow researcher, or this journalist, or one thing or another. Okay, so they must know what they're talking about, so we have to believe it, which we really don't believe in a lot of stuff that's even told today by journalists and reporters and everything else, because they only give you partial of the story, and they'll put a little bit more into that story for you to believe it, so it gives up more drama that sells more. That's what people do, especially a reporter or a journalist. Okay, they got to go for that main story. But this is the shot that started it all. That started all the false claims and everything else. Now, there's no evidence to show there was a gunman behind a picket fence. But let me show you this. Okay, it started off with frame 313, JFK's head opening up. And then the story added to it. JFK went back and then he went to the left. As a point of my research, and as we see in the Zapruder film, he did not go back at all. He went over to his left. And the reason why he didn't go over all the way to his left from this fatal headshot is because of Mrs. Kennedy. He has a back brace on, number one. Number two is Mrs. Kennedy had one hand here, one hand here. She took the impact. Then when he got shot in the head for the third time I should say, that's when the bullet passed through the opening of JFK's head and struck the inside of the windshield. She like pushed him back as she's going forward herself, as we see here, because that bullet passed through there. Okay, because it's called reaction. But JFK never went back and then to the left, as they said. So since everybody says he went back and to the left, starting off one frame, this right here, frame 313, he went back and to the left. They said seen in the Zapruder film, which is not, but they said it's seen in the Zapruder film. Now that left an opening to where, well, it had to have been a gunman shooting from the front. So what's on the front close to the right? So we're going to say, okay, well, front close to the right, so we got to have a gunman somewhere that's in front of them and onto the right. So we're going to say a gunman behind a picket fence. So now they're going to say a gunman behind a picket fence. And then someone else would take that story and add more to it. Now the film's been altered. Now the blowhole, which is the exit wound I should say, should be in the back of JFK's head. Okay, but it's not. It's on the right side of JFK's head. Because the Warren Commission and all of them says, well, the bullet struck JFK in the back of the head, and that's what opened it up, because that's all exit wound, which again is wrong. Okay, but they want to reverse that and put the hole back here, so they're going to have this person say this person say that, and then all of a sudden the stories start switching around, and they're going to talk to somebody. It's like somebody feeding somebody information. You see what I'm saying? Let me give you an example. Say I go to somebody. All right, this is called feeding information, and this is what people strives on. This is what people does. They feed on information. Say I go to do a paranormal investigation, okay, and I ask the person, "Does something happen to you in this room?" And they give me all details. Yeah, I got my hair pulled. I got scratches across the back. You know, I felt something tug my arm and everything else. So they're feeding me information. Now, I'll have guys with me, and next thing I know is when we go into that room, we hear guys saying, oh, well, you know, I felt something pull my hair, or I felt scratches on my back, or I felt someone tug on my arm and stuff. Hey, there's one guy say that, you know, he got tugged in this room and his hair pulled and, you know, all this stuff. That's called feeding information, because now someone else made that claim and someone else is following behind saying, oh, yeah, I feel that same thing. When actually, that's why when I do an investigation, when it comes to doing paranormal investigations, I ask questions last. I do my investigation first, then I ask questions last. Same thing when it comes to JFK assassination. They go to a doctor and said, well, I think the film was altered because I think there's a blowhole in the back of his head here. You know, and if I get a doctor to say, you know, the exit wound was in the back of his head, this will help me out, you know, to prove there was another gunman. they're going to say, well, if I offer you money, and a lot of times they do, they say offer you money if you say it, okay, yeah, I'll say it that way for that money. And you're going to get fame for it. Your name's going to get in that history books. So they're looking at, well, I'm going to get paid for it. I'm going to get my name in the history books. No one else is going to know about it. It's going to be between me and this reporter or me and this researcher here. So we're going to keep a hush-hush on it. And then next thing you know, one person's going to follow another. Another person's going to follow another. No one never talked about a gunman behind a picket fence. Never. Until the claims start coming out and saying, hey, there was a gunman behind a picket fence. And then next thing we know, now we have eyewitnesses coming out saying, yeah, I seen that gunman behind a picket fence. Okay, years later now, mind you, years later. So basically, what we're getting now, the public is, we're getting people's story as they read other people's stuff. Another researcher comes out and says this, or another researcher comes out that, yeah, I'm going to put that into my story as well. Then it grows and grows and grows. That's how it ends up becoming what we look at today, the JFK assassination. Because of that fatal headshot, now we have gunmen on all these different locations. But as you noticed, as I'm pointing out, as I'm talking, does any of the eyewitnesses match anybody else's story? They said there's a gunman behind a picket fence, but their location is never the same. One eyewitness and another eyewitness saying there's a gunman behind a picket fence, which I'm going to show you right here. I'm going to point up 1, 2, let's see who else we got here. 3, 4, which James Files did claim he was the assassin behind the picket fence, that he took the fatal headshot to JFK. Okay, now what I'm trying to say, and hopefully people understand what I'm trying to talk about here. We have 3 eyewitnesses claim, we know Jean Hill was there. We know that for a fact because we see her in a Zapruder film. Am I correct? But like I pointed out, in the beginning, for the first quite a few years, she said she heard the shots, but she did not see where the shots came from. Then years later, she was offered a book deal. They turn around and says, well, we need to add a little bit more juice into this story here to sell it to the public. Okay, well now the government was on you. The government threatened to kill you or one thing or another. You seen a gunman behind a picket fence. Okay, this all gets more added into it. Do you see what I'm saying? It's getting added into it. So now we got another story coming into it. Well, the government's after me. So we'll have Beverly Oliver hear Jean Hill's story. Beverly Oliver, well now, okay, Secret Service agents came to me. Yeah, there's a gunman behind a picket fence. And the Secret Service agents came to me. They took my camera. They took this, they took that. Added more juices to that story. And that's how everything grows, just like over here. Hey, I'll give you a book deal. Was you an eyewitness there? Yeah, I was an eyewitness there. But the gunman here. But as I'm pointing out, the whole time I'm pointing this out, as you notice, the whole thing I'm pointing out, not one of them is giving you a specific location of the picket fence. And when they do give you a specific location, they're all pointing in different directions. So basically, they're telling us there's 1, 2, 3, 4 gunmen behind the picket fence now. So who do we believe out of all these 4 people here? We have a person that claims he was the assassin behind the picket fence. We have an eyewitness, another eyewitness claiming there was a gunman behind the picket fence, but in different locations. Okay, James Files claimed he was the only gunman behind the picket fence, but later on, as the story goes and the story grows, now there's Charles Harrelson behind the picket fence with him as well. Okay, the story grows because people keeps on adding on the story. In this video here, I'm making this video, okay, because of a lot of things that people talk about in the JFK assassination. And there's somebody asked me, how did all this false information get started? So I said, well, you know, this would be a good video to work on, you know, to point out these facts of where it all started at, which was frame 313 of the Zapruder film. That's where it all started at. It was just people and researchers and false information given out over the years, and more gets added on to it. Now we have locations of gunmen all over the place. Now, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Right here, 14 locations that people has marked down as where the fatal headshot came from. Now, 14 researchers. 14 researchers. That's 14 researchers now. Who do you believe? We're talking about one shot, the fatal headshot JFK. Where did it come from? I've proven where that fatal headshot came from, but we're looking at their stories right here, where it all came from, where it all started. Where did that fatal headshot came from? What do you got to believe? I mean, you can't, a lot of people say, well, I believe this researcher here, but also I got to believe this researcher here. But then, over here, this other researcher over here, said this, so I got to believe some of that too. Okay, but if you believe, you can't believe all three of them. There's only certain parts you can believe from certain researchers. Okay, this is one thing I looked at when I did my research. What can we believe? Okay, if he's right about this one thing, but he's wrong about the rest of the stuff, and this person over here is right about this one thing, but he's wrong about this other stuff, but the one he's right about and the one thing he's right about is different than one another. So how can I believe both of these guys? Like the fatal headshot. This guy over here says it came from a storm drain. Well, I could believe that. Well, this guy over here says it came from the picket fence area. Well, I could believe that too. So I'm believing that it came from the storm drain and it came from the picket fence now. But that's two shots. But we're only talking about one, the fatal headshot. Because that's all everybody's ever really talked about in the JFK assassination was the fatal headshot. Sorry, I feel like I'm about to sneeze. But you see what I'm saying? That's the reason why, when I did my investigation, I didn't worry about the eyewitness accounts or nothing like that until after I got done viewing and finding everything that I found, and then I start matching it up. If it fits what I've seen for myself, that's the stories we believe. But people always wonder, how did all this stuff get started? Because of the fatal headshot. That's where it all started. Frame 313 of the Zapruder film. Not the Nix film, not the Bronson film, not any other films, not any other image. It all started with the Zapruder film, frame 313, the fatal headshot. Now, as I point out here, there's 14 different locations. One shot. Where did that shot come from? 14 different locations by 14 different researchers. Okay, 14 different researchers. Who took that fatal shot? So see, we're not getting no closer. We're getting further back now. We're getting further away. Because to start off with gunman behind the picket fence. Then we're right here and here. Then there's a gunman between the picket fence and the shelter. Then there was a gunman in the Dow Tech's building. Then, there's gunmen in the drainages. One up here and one down here. Then there was a gunman right beside James Tagg. Then there's a gunman from the south side in 3 different locations. Then we have the driver Greer getting added into it. We got Governor Connolly being added into it. We got Jackie Kennedy being added into it. Then a Secret Service agent being added into it. Okay, so who do you believe now? 14 different people. And this is why it keeps on growing. And it's going to keep on growing. It's going to keep on growing because they're going to keep on adding more to it, to where today, 2018, May 31st, 2018, 14 locations of where the fatal headshot come from. Now, if I stopped my research and didn't go no further with it or anything else, or if I didn't even come into the picture, what do you think will be 20 years from now, 30 years from now? Well, let's see, in the past 50 years, 55 years, we got 14 different locations. Okay, so maybe another 50 years from now, there's going to be up to 28 different locations of a gunman, or maybe 30 different locations for one shot. Okay, one shot, one rifle, one bullet, but 14 different locations where that fatal headshot came from. 14 as the day standards. I show in my photographic evidence where that fatal headshot came from. One rifle, one shot, one bullet. Not 14 rifles, not 14 bullets for one headshot. That's what they're telling us. That's what they're talking about. That's where it all started from. The one fatal headshot. Like I said, they erased it, the curb shot, and they erased it, the magic bullet shot. It's all about the fatal headshot, where it came from. Because if a researcher could prove that that fatal headshot came from a different location, okay, if you could prove that it came from a different location, they could prove a conspiracy. If they could prove there was more than 3 shots fired, they could prove there was a conspiracy. I've already proven that. I already proved the fatal headshot didn't come from Oswald, and I already proved there was more than 3 shots fired. Like I said, someone asked me a question about where did it all start. It's where it all started. That's why Castro was added into it eventually. Okay, he was, well, there he is. Castro was added into it eventually. Lyndon B. Johnson was added into it and stuff like that. They added to the mix. They got to add that extra spice into that story to make more, you know, to get more out of it. Okay, like I said, you know, if I never started this research and stuff like that, even today, like I said, there could have been a lot more claims made out there, you know, and to me, it's a shame when I look at it this way, because it's like, you know, it's like, this is why people contact me. They tell me this. They're so confused. When you watch the documentaries, when you see the books that's written, when you know, watch the films that's made and stuff, they always concentrate on that one shot, that fatal headshot to JFK. That's all they're concentrating on. All right. And just like when we looked at seriously, just like when the movie that came out a couple of years ago, Parkland. Okay, I got a copy of that movie. I watched it. They was talking about that fatal headshot, basically, and a little bit behind the scenes, I guess, what they was telling people. But we didn't hear nothing about James Tagg in there, did we? We didn't hear no shots about James Tagg getting shot. Okay, we didn't really hear too much about that magic bullet shot, or too much about Governor Connolly. It was about the fatal headshot to JFK. That's what I'm talking about. It's just the one shot. But they're giving us all these different locations. So I want to make this video here to answer the questions, where did it all start? It started with Frank 313 of the Zapruder film. Okay. As far as the claims that's made with no evidence to back it up, if people want to believe in it, that's fine. Okay. I understand that. That's their opinion. There's nothing to back it up. On any of these locations, there's not one bit of scrap of evidence to back any of these locations up. Just a story. That's it. Just a story. So don't forget that like button. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to tell your friends about us. Share this information, other information that I have on my videos and stuff with your family, family, friends, and relatives, so they may know this information and stuff like that. I still got 24 hours left for that GoFundMe account. If you still want to make a donation, that site's going to be in the description down below. Like I said, don't forget that like button. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to tell your friends about us. Thank you, and you all have a pleasant day.